here or watching online from all around the world. Welcome to day 2 of WEP 2023. I am Afrah Al-Uthman, and I hope you all enjoyed the opening yesterday. There are so many exciting things going on around the campus, and I hope you can make the best of these 2 weeks and attend everything if you can. For today, I'm so excited for this coming keynote with Hilde, Fålun, Strøm, and Sunniva Sorby, who made history as the first women to overwinter solo in the Norwegian Arctic. I'm especially excited because I'm myself an explorer, but in the water. I was the first Arab woman to explore the deep sea by leading ROV dive and going into deep water with a submarine. Our speakers today are also co-founders of Hearts in the Ice platform for social engagement around citizen science and climate change. I hope you're all thrilled, as I am, to hear their stories. This session is going to be 1 hour long between the talk and the discussion, and we will be opening the last 15 minutes for questions. And those who are watching online, please send your questions in writing. Please note that Hilde and Sunniva's book, Hearts in the Ice, will be available outside in the lobby, and they also will be available to sign books. If you would like to have more discussion with Hilde and Sunniva, there will be an open talk with them today at 4 p.m. in the same auditorium lobby, and you're all welcome to come. But for now, I would like to introduce our moderator for this session, Melissa Manuel, who is also a business manager here at KAUST and doing her PhD in the USA. Her research is about organizational culture, so let's welcome her. Thank you.
In May 2020, Sunniva Sorby and Hilde Fålun Strøm made history as the first women to overwinter solo in the Arctic, spending 19 months, 2 winters, in a remote trapper's cabin smaller than the size of our local Starbucks at Tamimi's. These inspiring women spent 5 months in complete 24-hour darkness to support their impact project, Hearts in the Ice, started in 2018 as a global platform for dialogue, engagement, education, and inspiration around issues of climate change and the role that each person can play. It was their incredible expeditions and work as citizen scientists that first captured my attention last year. Reaching out to them to see if they would be interested in sharing their stories and experiences, it was with enthusiasm that they replied, fitting perfectly with this year's WEP theme of Edge. I was also humbled and honored to be invited as a guest in their Norwegian sustainability expedition in Svalbard this past September. One of the most life-changing journeys I have been on as I learned about how these 2 extraordinary women have created, supported, and facilitated communities of scientists, industrial partners, explorers, political leaders, artists, and other stakeholders to come together in a common action to focus on climate change. With their passion and leadership, they have made impacts on policy and awareness of climate change, and their impact on me has led me to proudly become an ambassador of Hearts in the Ice, affectionately known as a heartbeat. Working alongside and surrounded by researchers is incredibly motivating to me, and one of the primary reasons that I love working at KAUST. Through Hilde and Sunniva, I discovered citizen science and how I, as a non-academic, can contribute to research and innovation both at KAUST and in the greater scientific community. They have helped inspire my drive in developing a culture to collaboratively align academics and administrators toward a common vision. Regardless of professional roles and talents, we as community members all have a stake in research and climate change, and we as individuals can make a difference. As keynote speakers for several major global events, including the UN, COP26, and Google, data contributors to various organizations, including NASA and the Norwegian Polar Institute, and now our friends, I would like to warmly welcome Sunniva and Hilde of Hearts in the Ice.
Thank you. Woo. Well,
hey! Oh, that was loud. Good.
Good morning, everybody.
To wake you up.
Right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. We really want to extend a special thank you to Melissa. You just heard her story, but it's because of her that we're here, and of course the program committee. But when somebody sees you and sees that you might have something to share with other people, and you share that out to your network, that's how change happens. So, Melissa, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to get us kicked off here. This is us in our very happy place, outside with Etra. This is a story that I hope you can all relate to. It's one of friendship, collaboration, courage, and commitment. It's a story about the edge of who you think you are to become who you're meant to be. It's a story about the edge of our comfort zone to find comfort in the discomfort, proving that it absolutely is possible to spend 9 months with someone without showering and still like who you are and still like who they are. It's a story of what's possible when we have a problem to solve and we do everything that we can to help solve it. And our problem is biodiversity loss, environmental inequity, and climate change. So we are doing everything we can in our power to help solve that problem. But it's not about us alone. So we hope you'll see that in the slides to come. So I'll hand it over to Hilde.
Thank you. So this is, as you can see, the Earth, or the globe. And the blue arrow there is pointing at Svalbard. That's the Norwegian Arctic. It's a small island. This is my backyard. I've been living there now for almost 28 years. I moved there in 1995. And this is a place where we have more polar bears than humans. And this is, in fact, the northernmost settlement in the world. So what's so special with this place? Well, first of all, I feel very grounded there. It's something with the energy that is really special. And as you can see, it's a lot of white up there. And this white, it might feel far away from you guys here. Any of you know how far it is up to the Arctic? I can tell you because I Googled. It was 6,425 kilometers away from here. But actually, it's not that far, because this is the air conditioner of the world. And now, all our actions around the world is impacting this area, this air condition, both when it comes to the currents in the ocean and also the weather patterns. So, this North Pole thing is really important for all of us. And this is the island. This is the map of the island. So if you can see Longyearbyen up there, that's where the settlements are. And a little further down, you see a red dot. And it's not that short distance. It's 140 kilometers. And this is the place where Sunniva and I actually spent altogether 19 months. 19 months. So, and to get there, it's really hard, both summer and winter. It's inaccessible for many months of the year. And we had no visitors for many months. And we were actually closer to the lower band of Aurora than we were to the next neighbor. Our neighbors down at Bamsebu was polar bears and reindeers. So this is the scene of the crime. This is Bamsebu, the trapper's cabin built almost 100 years ago. It was built for summer hunting of belugas. and it's uninsulated because it wasn't supposed to be used during winters. And it's no connectivity, and of course no running water and no electricity. We had solar and wind. We had a windmill outside and solar panel. And this hut, Bamsebu, means little bear hut. And little bear hut means that we had a lot of polar bears in that area. Also, until we put up the log constructions there, back in 2000, we had polar bears inside the hut every single winter. We didn't have that, luckily.
And I just want to add, because Melissa mentioned this, it is smaller than Starbucks.
It is. It is really small. It's 20 square meters, and we were on top of each other for all those months, 15,000 hours. Anyway, so this hut was the scene of the crime. And as I said, if you add 3 months of complete darkness, the 2 winters we were there, 6 altogether, we were extremely remote. So this is me when I was a little younger than today. I grew up with skis on. That's a Norwegian expression. I was born with skis on. I wasn't, but I was a skier almost before I could walk. I had older siblings, and they pushed me, and I remember always being tired. And my passion was snow and ice from early on. So I guess me, like all of you, I was born as an explorer, and I never stopped exploring. I took my education, and I did a lot of sport. And in between, I took some education. It's very important to educate yourself, and I did that in tourism. And I traveled the world. And since I had my back upbringing with my siblings and my very active family, being outside in nature, I traveled a lot. I wanted to see different places of the world with different nature and different cultures. And I read early on about a female trapper called Vanny Volstad. She's Norwegian. She was the first female polar bear trapper back in the 30s. And I wanted to do something like that. I wanted to move up to the north, to where I had my passion in snow and ice. I really wanted to explore the north area of the world. So when I came to Svalbard, I really felt grounded in a way different way that I've felt in any other place on Earth. It's something with the energy, it's something with me feeling part of something so much bigger than myself. And being out in the nature on Svalbard, though my job was mostly inside, I had a leading position inside tourism, I loved it when I could go long ski expeditions or backcountry skiing. And I became an expedition leader, and I still do that. I still do backcountry skiing and going in May. Ever since I came to Svalbard in 1995, or at least late 90s, I saw that there was changes from one year to the other. I saw that the warmer temperature had impact, huge impact. So this region is the climate change, the impact of the climate change happens 7 times faster than any other regions in the world. So what I saw, what I was an eyewitness still through almost 3 decades, was the change. This was called an Arctic desert when I came there back in 1995. We had less precipitation than in Sahara. So that changed. The warmer temperature made it rain more and snow more, and also melting sea ice. And we had winters with no sea ice at all, and we also had retreating glaciers. And the problem when you have less sea ice is that there is so much happening underneath the sea ice that's important for the web of life in the ocean. Amongst that, some algae that's extremely important for us, that produce more than 60% of our oxygen. So the loss of sea ice is really critical to us. And also, this white surfaces called cryosphere is important for us to keep, because that is the engine of our world's climate, what do you call that? It's air conditioner. So the air conditioner, the engine to the air conditioner, is now starting to change, and that's really, really scary. I'm sure you have seen some weather changes here as well. But the most defining incident in my life was back in 1995, and this is always hard for me to talk about. So in 1995, this is my neighbor houses, and we had a big avalanche in the settlement of Longyearbyen where I live, and it just missed my house by a few meters. And my husband was outside digging snow, and so the avalanche just destroyed 12 of my neighbor houses. And inside those houses, this was December 19th, 2015, and people were home. They were luckily inside, except my husband, but he was just outside on the outskirts of the avalanche. They were inside, so they were buried inside their homes. So we were looking for 17 people, and I was very much involved in the young family, 2 young parents, looking for their 2-year-old and their 4-year-old. And that day really changed my life. So only 2 people died, which is a tragedy, of course. The 2-year-old girl didn't survive, and I was very involved with them. So I knew that this had something to do with the climate change. All the changes I had seen through so many years, I knew that this had an impact. And I really, really wanted to make a difference. I really wanted to make a contribution. And I didn't know how, but I just knew that I wanted to. And the next year, the year after, I met Sunniva, and my dreams would come true.
Woo, woo. So what you're looking at here is the Antarctic landscape. We're going from the Arctic to the Antarctic. Just a little bit about my background and what shaped me and how I came to meet Hilde and why we did what we did. So we all have dreams, right? And so much of what we do in our life is not about what we've done, but it's about where we're going and what we're doing. When I was young, I didn't think that was the case. I thought it was all about what I was doing. And so I had a career in the outdoor industry. I actually had a career as a computer programmer in Norway before I quit that job to join a mountaineering course. And then I was asked, and it's a long story, to be part of the first team of women that would ski to the South Pole. And I was 30 years old, and I never, ever dreamt of skiing across Antarctica. In the same way that I actually never, ever dreamt of overwintering in the Arctic. So you might wonder what's wrong with me, but stay with me here. So I was invited to be part of that team, and I joined because they were 1 woman short. It was 4 women. And this photo is 4 days before we get to the South Pole. It was the most grueling expedition of my life. It was the first time women had even attempted to do this. And so this is 1992-93, pre-internet. I was young, naive, eager, and I felt, because I was the youngest, that I was going to be the strongest of the 4 of us. And I was horribly wrong. What I found out early on in the expedition, because it was 67 days long, and we each pulled a 200-pound, 100-kilo sled uphill. We start at 3,000 feet, 1,000 meters, and we end up at the South Pole, which is over 3,000 meters. It's 1 step at a time, 1 breath at a time. And I thought the physical strength of who we are can carry us through absolutely anything. And that's the ego sort of talking there. And I realized really early on, when I had a big lump in my neck that was literally the size of a grapefruit, and then I had tendonitis in both feet, that I was reduced to the lowest common denominator of who I thought I was as a woman at that time. And I was the weakest link. And it's really hard when you have something that you might consider a deficiency or a weakness to feel like you can make a contribution to something. And I discovered something really powerful down there. And number 1 was my sort of spirituality, if you will, because when you... we're both emotional. That's good. Emotions are a powerful motivator. When you discover that you actually are not doing anything by yourself, that you're actually working in tandem with perhaps a lot of people around the world that you can't see. We had school kids around the United States and around the world that supported our project. It was the largest grassroots expedition of its kind. We had 0 corporate sponsors. We raised over $600,000. One woman from Germany sent in an American dollar in the mail saying, "This is all I have, but here you go." Children around the schools in Minnesota, which is where the project was born, collected pennies. And they took a wheelbarrow and wheeled that into a school where we were presenting and presented us with a pillow sack of pennies. And it was just like, wow. To me, that was the first understanding of how powerful it is when somebody believes in you and they do whatever they can to support you. So when I was broken, where I literally had nothing left physically, and I started to really worry about myself, because when you are suffering physically, that's one thing. But when you stop actually having the ability to control your own thoughts, you're kind of in trouble. And I was at that place. So I am 4 days away from the South Pole. And we have a call sign. We walk single file. And the call sign is 1 ski pole up in the air. If you're behind, I'm okay. 2 ski poles crossed, I'm not okay, I need you to stop. It was Christmas Eve. It was actually more than 4 days away from the South Pole. And I actually put 2 ski poles up in the air and I crossed them. And they stopped. And Sue Giller, one of the women on the expedition, sort of made a joke saying, well, it's Christmas Eve. We have time to rehydrate the green peppers, the red peppers, and our turkey for Christmas dinner. So it's just humor was an absolutely vital part of what we were doing on that trip and how we came together. I discovered a hidden strength in myself on that trip, and that was that our strengths are often not the ones that we exhibit on the outside. You know, I grew up in Norway, as Hilde did. Well, I was born there, but I grew up in Canada. And we have a world where we aggrandize sort of the physical exploits that people do in this world. And I think that, you know, those days are gone. Those days are behind us. Now more than ever, we need to recognize and acknowledge the fire and the power that exists in each and every one of us, and that is something that if we judge and you know, well, I guess judgment is probably the biggest thing. Judge what we think is the ability of someone else. We're missing out on the opportunity to have diversity of thought and diversity of education and innovation. So it's so important. It was so important for me on this trip to understand that this was not about me. And so this photo right here represents the fact that before we arrived at the South Pole, the expedition leader decided that, you know, it's not one person reaching the South Pole first, it's about the 4 of us. So we called it 4 to the Pole. And this is kind of strange, but this piece of paper here is 30 years old. I found it a while ago because I was looking through some notes and things, if it's still ripped, for something else. But I just want to share with you and this is right after the South Pole, what my thoughts and feelings were at the South Pole. Because this is 30 years ago. I just dated myself. Not that long ago, right? And they resonate a little bit with the feelings I had after we left the Arctic and what we left behind. So mostly overwhelmed with the distractions and the people, the smells, the buildings. Sadness in knowing that the wilderness, which we called the White Plains, was behind us. Craving more time on the ice. It astounds me to read that because I was closer to dying than I was alive. Anne Bancroft in the documentary, when we came back, I only learned that she thought I was going to fall into what we call a hypothermic coma, because I wasn't able to take care of myself, and I wasn't aware of that. I was aware of it, but you just do what you do. So it was kind of strange that I was craving more pain, craving more time on the ice, excited at the thought of a hot shower and a cold beer, proud of all of us and how we fulfilled our commitment to go 4 to the pole. So it was a story about friendship and the 4 of us committing to the absolute duration of this trip because the world was watching us. So, you know, we all take risks. We're a room here this morning full of risk takers in one way or another, and we stand in solidarity with all of you. When we met, as Hilde said, a year after that tragic avalanche, 2016, we had to noodle on a piece of paper. Okay, we have a lot in common. We want to sort of hold up the world. We want to unite women in collaboration with what we're doing and our shared love. So a logo was born, right? And the logo is to represent sort of two people, pole to pole, hearts in the ice. So you're all now, by the virtue of the fact that you're here this morning or this afternoon, you're part of our heartbeats. And now we go from a logo to an IMAX documentary, because we are right now in the throes of creating an IMAX documentary with a company called Imagine Entertainment in New York. It's Brian Glazer and Ron Howard's company. So if you just sort of sit back and relax, 3 minutes, and just this is all of our footage, drone and otherwise, and we'll take you up to the Arctic. So the question is, what did we give up? What did we forfeit to come here?
What didn't we give up? Our whole life. Without men, an important thing.
We gave up our jobs, shopping, showers.
Our family and friends.
Hey, this is us.
Hi!
And we don't ever go anywhere without Etra, our four-legged friend.
Da går vi inn I mørketida med bjørn rundt veggene, Sunniva.
So today is March 9th. And it's the first time that I see the sun since October. Oh, I have to open up the window. Oh, look at this. There it is. We're out here on a lunch break.
We had two goals when we were at Bamsebu. We had the citizen science part from our tourist industry, both of us, and we wanted to connect with the rest of the world, especially kids. So this Peli case is a satellite dish, and we were the first two civilians to try that out in 2019. And we did connect with almost 100,000 kids, or actually more than 100,000 kids, through that satellite dish, powered by solar and wind, from that hut, Bamsebu. And we had the most fantastic last call at Bamsebu, even with picture. We could be on for a few seconds at a time. Earlier it was just on the phone, and we had Dr. Jane Goodall. On this call, we had 7,300 kids signed on. And the science project that we had, I'll let Sunniva take that further.
So one thing that often goes unnoticed on trips like ours is really the isolation and the solitude and the silence that you feel. You know, to live in this sort of silence is a luxury, to be honest, where you have the ability to have original thought and creativity emerge, you know, without distraction. And so all of what we did was from this tiny cabin with the two of us and with Etra and the wildlife around us. And I would say that nature and our environment is the most powerful motivator. But there's nothing like spending, as Melissa mentioned in the introduction, so many months in absolute darkness. It's to meet the innermost parts of yourself that you try so hard in so many different ways to mask and disguise, you know? Because what we do when we're alone is sometimes very different, often very different from what we do when we're with other people. And so because we were so tight with each other, in Bamsebu, there was no way to hide those dark parts of myself and that little 4-year-old or 5-year-old or your 6-year-old or your 7-year-old that came out. And it's a very interesting thing, but it's an opportunity to stretch and grow and, as I mentioned earlier, step out of your comfort zone and discover those parts of yourself, perhaps unrequited dreams, perhaps those nightmares that have forever haunted you, like a polar bear at your door. And this is a photo of a polar bear at our door. We opened it up, Hilde opened up the metal door, and the door wouldn't open anymore because his butt was in the way. And it was like, there's a polar bear at the door. And he was eating Etra's food. It's another story there, but it's really an interesting thing, what we fear in the darkness. So what kept us alive in that was many of the things that Hilde's going to share in a second, but also the thought that we were doing this for a purpose, and we had a big mission behind us. It was not about us. Now, to just share this, because, you know, spending 19 months in the Arctic and doing what we did can seem very heroic or brave or courageous. It's probably all of those things, but we didn't do this expedition, neither one of us. We both had incredible careers and have lots of things behind us. It was about, what are we doing now? And so to tell the real story, the full story of a changing Arctic, is to tell the human story. And that includes the stories of the indigenous people around the world who have been living on the edge and the precipice of climate change for decades before that was even a real hot-button topic in the news, right? So many people have considered us to be uniquely placed specialists, and we would like to consider the fact that all of the indigenous around the world are really uniquely placed specialists, and they're the ones that we should be focusing on and bringing into the conversation. So that is what's next for us. So what did we learn, and how did we survive? That's the question.
Yes, well, routines is extremely important in any person's life, but at this place, it was the crucial part of us staying alive. So both the mental part, as Sunniva just spoke about, and also the physical part. We trained every single day with rubber bands, and also we did yoga, and we ran outside if we could, if the weather allowed, and we walked Etra. But even more so, we were chopping wood every single day. We were searching for snow and ice for water, so we were doing a lot of heavy lifting. And we also, Etra was also always part of that. And we also, here she does a downward dog. That's a yoga thing. And we also celebrated. We celebrated every single day. And if you can imagine, we didn't have resupply for months, and maybe we had one limp carrot left that was all bendy. We celebrated that. And regardless of what we had, we celebrated dinner every single day. So all the small things was important for us to celebrate. And we also did one other very important thing every single day to stay sane and stay friends That was gratitude. Look each other in the eye and say thank you. Thank you for every single contribution. Maybe Sunniva made me a fantastic dinner, or she chopped wood, maybe I chopped wood. We divided all the tasks between us, and one task was as important as the other one. So saying thank you to each other every single day and look each other in the eye, try that. It's so powerful. And it seems to be maybe, I don't know, awkward the first time. Super powerful. This is where we lived. We had to take care of. The routines was also taking care of our goods, our food. We had containers outside that was bear-proof. And we had solar, as you see there, and we had wind just behind there. So taking care of the food, we had eggs that we kept for 7 months by turning them, and we had them, of course, inside the hut. I mean, we had 3 months of darkness for 2 winters, but this is the scenery that we had. We had no radio, no data connectivity, except twice a day when we uploaded and downloaded emails. That was everything, and we had a satellite phone. But this was what we were there for, to show our passion and love for the polar region and tell that out to all of you, to urge everyone, like ourselves, to try to protect this. The wildlife, we have a biodiversity loss in the world, and we lose nature every single day. And these are the inhabitants of Svalbard. And we are still, I've been living there for almost 30 years, I'm still the visitor. They are the ones that are suffering now because of the warmer temperature. And aren't they beautiful?
Cute. So citizen science is a term that I think most of you might know about, but maybe some don't. But citizen science is basically all of us acting as observers and contributing to ongoing research on a number of different areas of interest out there. So that's what we were. And we had science partners, but it's not like they wrote us and said, hey, we would like you to help us with a project. They were actually a little bit dubious about the fact that we were going to be in one place initially 9 months, and that we wanted to serve, non-paid. This was all volunteer on our part. So we made phone calls. We made phone calls. We wrote emails and just said, you can count on us to follow the protocol, collect the data, preserve it in a way that you'll get it back and it's useful. And so slowly we gained a lot of credibility in the science world for the data we were collecting.
And just a few words about plastic. 5% of the plastic in the ocean is washed up on the shoreline everywhere in the world, even up in Svalbard. So we have those polar circle currents that brings all this stuff up on the ocean there. And eventually it becomes microplastic. And we had a study a few years ago, and also then 10 years before that, where they've collected 20 dead fulmars. They are seabirds, as you probably know, and they eat the stuff in the surface of the water. So 1 of 20 seabirds, like fulmars, had plastic in their stomachs 13 years ago. 3 years ago, they did the same study. Can you imagine how many that had plastic in their stomachs? All of them. 20 seabirds of 20. So they eat the plastic because it smells and tastes like food. It's covered by algae, and also when plastic are going apart, like rotten, the process makes the smell like fish. Makes it smell like fish. And we also collected plastic. And the plastic, also the bigger plastic, so the net here, that it keeps fishing in the ocean when it's in the ocean, and also reindeers and polar bears and bigger animals get stuck in it, and they starve to death eventually.
So I'll run you through very quickly a couple of images of what we did. A lot of it was done in the dark. We collected ice core samples, riding a snowmobile out on the ice, drilling for usually 2 to 4 samples every time, coming back, processing it. Everything has to be cut just right. They're interested in the 1 to 3 centimeters, the very end of the ice core, which is the meiofauna, the very beginning of life on Earth as we know it. And so this is an ongoing study with the University Center of Svalbard. And we collected phytoplankton, we collected saltwater samples, we flew a drone in minus 26 degrees Celsius. We were able to report that the battery lasted for 2 programmed flights. And that's to measure surface temperature change over time. And this is probably the most fun thing we did. We are now officially rocket citizen scientists. That's right.
That's fun.
We were on call for almost a month with NASA because they were launching a rocket from point A to point B, and we were in the perfect place and took, I'm not sure how many images of this for them, of which they are eternally grateful. And then the world sort of, after 9 months, the world changed, didn't it, in March of 2020. We were in Bumsaboo, and we planned 9 months. I was going to go back to my job, and so were you. And then all of a sudden, and I'm sure like all of you have been displaced in some ways or had to alter routines, we decided we'd go back to Longyearbyen, collect supplies, go back for the summer, and we decided that we are far more relevant as a project for the rest of the world to shed a light on what's happening in the Arctic and the rest of the world and how we can play a role by going back. So we went back to Bumsaboo, and so our 9 months became 19.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it wasn't only our choice, because in May 2020, when we were supposed to be picked up, no ship was there. So we could go back with ETRA, but we couldn't bring everything.
Details.
Details, yeah. So we stayed there for 12 months, and we were out of coffee. And I'm not a coffee drinker. Sunniva is. Imagine that. No coffee. And a lot of other stuff as well. So this female, we call her Violet. Her scientific name is N26131. And she has been studied from Norwegian Polar Institute for 14, 15 years. She's now 18 years old. And he was very curious. Did she manage? He knew that she had been in a den, because you can see the color. So he knew that she had been still in a den for a while, but he didn't know whether she had a cub. So we got the position. We went there, very gentle and very careful, and we saw that she had a cub. And that was a magical moment, Sunniva.
It was a magical moment. And
then, sadly, on my birthday, mid-July, she came back and she had lost her cub. So then we were curious, did she manage, and also the scientist, of course, did she manage to mate again before next spring? We got a new position, and here she is with some very lively cubs, beautiful small cubs. And she was close to us for a week, and we got to document her. But the sad thing is that she actually lost those cubs again the autumn of 2021.
There's a video, an educational video short coming out by Polar Bear International in February on Hearts in the Ice and us following Violet. You know, this quote is, when I first saw it, it's kind of heavy and depressing a little bit. I'll just read it very quickly. It was shared with us by a woman who has spent her 30 years of her adult life, Sila Watt-Cloutier. She wrote a book called The Right to Be Cold. And it's really a story of kind of where we are today. You know, the top environmental problems, biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, climate change. You know, we think that good science is always going to solve those problems. And good science has informed us. But now we're at a point where we need sort of another way of thinking, which is why we're so proud to be here at KAUST and be part of, you know, the theme EDGE this year, because you are the thought leaders and the innovators for the way forward. And we need to, more than ever, protect what we are at the very brink, at the very edge of losing.
Yes, this is, as Sunniva said, this is the natural world we have around us. It's at risk now. And think about this. We, as people, we are nature. It's not just the wildlife and the trees and everything you see. We are nature. So to protect the nature, we protect ourselves. And we have never been further away, Sunniva and I, from anyone in our dear ones. But I, and I think also you, have never felt more connected, both to myself, to the natural world, and those that I love far, far away from me.
So I shared early on, it's not what we've done, it's what we're doing and where we're going. And just to wrap up, we have been invited, as Melissa shared in the beginning, to speak at different things, but it's not about us just shining a light on what we did. It's really shining a light and saying, the light's in all of us, right? And so what we stand for are 4 very distinct pillars. The first one is citizen science, and really focusing on the fact that Indigenous knowledge and community involvement needs to be at the forefront of policy change and at the forefront of informing and educating all of us to be better connected stewards of the world. Supporting solutions towards an energy shift, that's carbon emissions, that's the #1 problem in the world. Education, youth leadership, and outreach, absolutely, they are our future. And so we host school calls every month, continue to do that. And then serving as polar ambassadors to really protect the sea ice loss that we're losing and the biodiversity of our species.
And a few words about this. This is the ship that Melissa came on board in September. We used that as a platform around the dialogue of the way forward. We brought in leaders from all over the world and also up in Svalbard to inspire each other, look at best practice and how to move this forward into a greener way forward. And
you're in there somewhere, Melissa.
Melissa is here, and we are here, and Etra is there.
Very powerful. So, in wrapping up, we're doing a book signing outside, but we would like each and every one of you, we write a blog and we host these free monthly webinars every month. If you'd sign up on our newsletter, we would love to build our community because we're only as strong as our partnerships and the collaborations that we have. And so in closing...
and just to add to that, because I'm part of the problem, and we're all part of the problem, but it's so much fun to be part of the solution. And we individually can't do this, not you either individually, but collectively, we are able to change this. This is a human-made problem, and we have a lot of hands, so all hands on deck, and this is something we can create a better world for all of us.
And you matter more than you think. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
I don't know about you guys, but wow, these speakers are just absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. So we're going to open it up for questions and answers. We do have 2 microphones that are on either side, and we do have the portable one, which I can attempt to throw at people. I would recommend using the side microphones instead. Do we have any questions?
Please, come on.
I have a question. So thank you for the amazing talk. I'm really moved by this. I'm in awe. I've done my own share of excursions that were beyond my physical limits. They're nowhere near this, but they were beyond my own limits. And I really like what you said about being the weakest link sometimes. I think it's a weird psychological thing because if I'm the weakest link in some trip, I always feel bad, like I'm dragging down other people. But if I'm not, I don't feel that way. I feel like, oh, we're all in this together, and whoever is behind, we're just like pulling each other until we reach the end. What do you think about this? How do you deal with this in life in general, not just in these kinds of situations?
Great question, and I think it's truly an inside job, eh? When you can see the Canadian out in me there. When we feel that we're the weakest link, it is just our perception of who we are in the group setting. Communication is absolutely important. It's important that you speak with the members of your team so that you're all aligned on shared values and shared goals, because there's always going to be only one person in front, regardless. That could be the weakest, the strongest. It doesn't really matter. So it's also important to understand that our ego, and I know that's an overused word sometimes, but the who that we think we are is sort of wanting to be maybe more than we really are. And sometimes our lessons come when we're stripped down to understand that that's how we need to learn the lesson, right? And so in that, it's like that great Viktor Frankl quote that I shared. We need that tension-filled state to rub up against each other to discover what we're about to evolve into. So it really matters that you be kind to yourself, give yourself a break, and understand that when you feel strong, someone else is probably feeling the way you did when you're weaker. And I think sharing and being vulnerable with that actually is the beautiful bridge between who we are as human beings.
Yeah, thank you. I should probably communicate more then.
We all come to the table with different skills, so.
And be kind, for everyone is fighting a great battle. The great quote by Plato.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the talk. I also have a question. I've heard from your talk that before you embarked on this mission, you had to, at some point, make a decision of leaving your jobs, leaving your past lives. And I was just wondering, how did you overcome the fear of leaving your comfort zone and making this huge pivot in your lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was very scary because when you have a job, maybe whichever job you had, I had a leading position, Sunniva had a leading position, we were well paid for what we were doing, and that is our comfort zone. I didn't quite know who am I without my job? That became my identity. So I think, but knowing and understanding and getting impacted by the climate change, both Sunniva and I, and for me, the avalanche back in 2015 really urged me to do something. So it was the sense of this was much bigger than I, and I needed to make a contribution one way or the other. If I had to quit my job, that was the way I had to do it.
Oh, yeah. You said that young people are like our future and that we are the ones that are supposed to change things. And as a young person that's been told this my entire life, with the rapid progression of climate change, it's sometimes pretty disheartening to be told that and to see it happening so quickly and not really have the power to fix it. So I was wondering how you could communicate, or if you have any suggestions on how to communicate the importance of fixing climate change and kind of making a difference without including all like the doom and gloom of climate change.
Well, that's part of the reason why Hearts on the Ice was born. There's a lot of bad news out there, and it's actually very depressing, and there's climate despair out there. It's a real thing. And we are not, immune to the news and the facts out there. But what we feel is that we need to we actually have the power to change a different way of looking at our life and the problems that we have in our world. Not through the lens of, sensationalist news, but rather through the lens of possibility, right? And so and sorry for you being a young one and feeling all this pressure, because that's not on you. I think what's really powerful right now are the opportunities that exist for youth to actually move into areas of our world that are solution-oriented, that have longevity, and that are collaborative. We need cross-generational leadership, and we need cross-cultural leadership, right? So it's about involving youth to the decision-making table and hearing more from, what do you care about? What are you worried about? And having policy, and this means you working with your local government and your community to understand that you possess the power and the resources with your peer group to actually go in there and tell people what needs to happen, right? It's this leadership top-down model doesn't work anymore. As a matter of fact, we changed our title. We're CEOs, but we're not CEOs top-down leadership. We're climate engagement officers, which is leadership across all arms. So I wish you the best of luck, and grab our email after, because if there's anything we can do to support you, we will.
Yeah, and also one little thing, whatever you are passionate about, educate yourself within that and do stuff better than we did. And we will support you. We will hold your hands all the way through. And this is not about the youth. This is about all of us doing this together, collectively. And we have so much more power than we think we have.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Probably, sorry, I'm going to move over here. Probably good.
We are running out a little bit of time. It is 2 o'clock. So there is a book signing that is happening right after this, and there is also an open discussion from 4 to 5 p.m. right out in the foyer. So you can ask very personal questions and get into a little bit more depth about some of the projects and their experiences working and living in the Arctic. So I do want to say a really big thank you to both Sunniva and Hilde for joining us today and helping us with our WEP event.